Good morning, guys. Dmitry here, and today I wanted to talk about Sony RX10 IV, this camera right here. Here's a story about why I wanted RX10 IV. I did have Sony RX10, the original one, and I enjoyed that camera as a vacation camera. I took portraits with it. I took landscape photos with it. I did know that the Zeiss lens on that camera was very, very sharp for that type of a camera, and actually for any kind of a camera. It was sharp throughout its focal length, which went all the way up to 200. However, recent times I've started thinking about something in addition to my Nikon 200 to 500 to shoot birds with. Now the 200 to 500 is a very nice lens. It's nice, and I'm happy with its image quality. I've used it on most of my Nikon cameras recently, from D850 to D500, D7200, and Z6. The problem that I have with the 200 to 500 lens is it's, even if you remove the hood, it's rather large, but more than large, it is heavy. It's over 2 kilos. And when you extend this lens, and you need to extend it to be at 500, it becomes kind of a front heavy and just big. Which is okay, but then if you go out and try to find birds or other animals to shoot, and you use this for a couple of hours holding it on your camera, it does become heavy after a while. Couple of hours with this lens and you're gonna want to have a break, most people at least. So I started thinking about what else is out there, something smaller, lighter. And I previously considered Micro Four Thirds route. I had EM1, Mark 1 and Mark 2, but I was just never happy with the tracking on Micro Four Thirds. Even the latest one that I had, the EM1 Mark 2, whatever Olympus said, I just, tracking wise, it was not working for me. So, and Panasonic, yeah, let's not even talk about that. So then I started reading about the Sonys, and I did purchase the RX100 Mark 6, which I've used at concert. That's my previous video, and I enjoyed it, and the focus worked fine. And then I read about RX100 Mark 4. I looked at some of the photos with it on Flickr and other feeds, and I decided that this is something that I should try. And I did. I picked up this RX10 Mark IV. I picked it up second hand for about $1,000, and here it is. The RX10 Mark IV, of course, features a 24 to 600 lens, and the 600 lens is at f4. It is 1-inch sensor, and we'll talk about it in a bit, but the key here is 24 to 600, 600 at f4. Just like RX10 Mark I, all the other RX10 cameras and RX10 Mark IV, is the lens on it, that Zeiss lens on it, is extremely sharp, wide open at any focal length. So at 600 millimeters at f4, this lens is very, very sharp, and you can see the examples of the birds and other animals that I shot with it, that the sharpness at 600 millimeters and the detail is really, really good, despite the fact that we're talking about one each sensor camera. The detail, including the detail in feathers, in birds, it's at least as good as in Micro Four Thirds, and I'm gonna argue that it's as good as APS-C, at least APS-C. And I went out with the camera, and I'm primarily a photographer. The video is a secondary to me, but this camera also shoots 4K video. But I went out with it, and I've shot pictures of birds with it and other animals, and the tracking does work. They claim it's A9 tracking, and I don't know if it tracks as good as A9, but it does track. And when it tracks at 24 frames per second with full autofocus tracking, which is amazing. That's high. On it. The medium one is 10 frames per second. And I use medium most of the time, but sometimes I use high, and it tracks. What can I say? Now, there are limitations to this camera, and of course one of them is because it has a 1-inch sensor. It's not a camera that I would want to go out at night with when I want to shoot something in low light or indoors. Things, indoor sports, for example. I probably would not want this camera for indoor sports. I'll pick something else, because once you start going into higher ISO, 1600 plus, the pictures start falling apart. But for anything happening outside, and usually when I go out and I shoot birds and other things, I'm outside and I'm in decent light, and there's no problems with that. Now, landscape shooting, as you can see for some of the other examples here, is brilliant as well. And the fact that you can go from 24 to 600 and back within a couple of seconds is without changing your lens is so it frees you. It makes you want to pick up this camera and go out and shoot. And I've been bringing it with me even when I bring my other cameras, just to know that I have this do-it-all camera that I can pick up and shoot at any point. The fact that it has a flash that syncs all the way up to, I think, 1/1000th or even higher is absolutely awesome. Now, they did remove ND filter from this camera, which is a shame, but for purpose of photography, if you want to shoot wide open in the middle of the day, they did include the shutter speed going up to 1/32,000th of a second, which should be enough for most shooting, even in a midday sun, if you want to do it wide open. I've shot a couple of videos with it. Video is fine, but as I said, I'm primarily a person who enjoys photography, and video is something secondary. The battery life, I've been, if you shoot at high speed, which is the 24 frames per second, even 10 frames per second, I've gotten upwards of 2,000 shots, and my battery would not even be halfway done. I think Sony rated the CIPA rating is 400 shots per second. I'm sorry, CIPA rating is 400 shots per battery, and I haven't had any problems with battery on this camera. So for somebody who wants to shoot birds, animals, and nature, and don't want to carry something big and heavy for hours, this is a consideration. 600 millimeters is actually not bad for birds. I mean, of course, more is better, but 600 is not bad at all at f4. This is a brilliant camera for that purpose. And same thing, landscapes. You know, you can even shoot portraits because it has the Sony's IF. You will never miss an eye with it, and it's great. It's great. The buffer is deep. It does take a little time when you record in high speed until the camera clears the buffer and you start shooting anew. But that's the same with Sony A9 or A7 III and other cameras. So that's pretty close. I'm very, very happy with this camera. This is probably one of my best purchases, photographic purchases this year. I highly recommend it for you if you want to take a camera on vacation, if you want to shoot birds or other animals. It would be just a great buy. I'm very excited about it, and hopefully if you have one of those cameras, you can comment on what you think about it. Subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about this camera, please write them and I'll try to respond to them. Thank you for watching my video. This is Dmitry.